like almost a perfect storm.
After the explosion, Colorado is being asked to trust that the energy industry can forecast the next tragedy. Nonprofits meet pot cash. Cannabis businesses insist their donations are just as green. Names and faces faded with time, but not forgotten, particularly not today. If we're not allowed to waste water, then why are they allowed to do this? And always a bridesmaid, never that much fun. It's confession time, ladies. Next. Just trust the oil and gas industry. It's not the first time Governor Hickenlooper has suggested that. But now there is a crater where a house once stood in Firestone, and 2 men are dead after a severed pipeline filled their house with explosive gas. Environmental critics say the governor, with his background in oil and gas, is drinking the industry Kool-Aid. He did famously drink fracking fluid to prove it safe. This may prove to be the governor's greatest challenge yet in that regard, convincing Coloradans that energy companies can be trusted to certify the safety of all of their lines, like the one under that house in Firestone.
We are confident, and certainly, I wouldn't say confident. We're not completely confident, but we are hopeful that this will be a unique situation, right? This is a one-time occurrence.
If it's not, if there's another line out there leaking gas, waiting to explode, well, then Coloradans have to hope that the energy industry itself will be able to find and fix the problem.
I don't think that they're going to try and cut corners on something like this.
The governor is imploring Coloradans to trust that the people who work in oil and gas, as he once did, value the lives of their neighbors and are not going to be forced to skimp on safety just to meet corporate bottom lines.
I can't imagine the anguish that the guy who probably turned on that well, and whether he's wondering himself. I mean, people, whether you're in the private sector or the public sector, it doesn't mean you're scatterbrained or careless or you don't value people's lives. I don't think that the guy who turned that well on had any idea that something like this could ever happen.
The governor could bring state legislators back to the Capitol to discuss changing state law on oil and gas once the session ends next week, but he hasn't indicated that he's going to do that. A Democratic House leader told us they're considering whether that explosion should lead to a change in state law or change in regulations, or rather just how those rules are enforced. The Republican Senate president told us that they shouldn't be overreacting until we know if the explosion was an isolated incident. Now, a few of you have asked us in the last day if homeowners can buy some kind of detector that will alarm for that odorless, unrefined gas, like the gas in the pipeline in Firestone. And that city's fire protection district recommended grabbing a gas/carbon monoxide alarm. They go for about $35 at home improvement stores. If you're interested in the exact model that was recommended to us by the Firestone Frederick Fire District, details are in the next section on 9news.com.
Giving a donation feels good. Giving a donation feels even better. Getting a donation feels even better. What if that donation is from a business that some still feel is illegal? A Denver pot shop is donating to a handful of charities this month. It's a risky good deed, depending on which way the wind is blowing in Washington.
Nothing is simple in cannabis, I've learned. Some nonprofits want the waters tested a little bit more.
Amanda Gonzalez is the CEO of Kaya Cannabis, which has a feature you don't normally see in a pot shop.
We are giving a portion of every sale to local nonprofits.
Right now, medical marijuana patients can put their receipt in one of these boxes and donate to Rocky Mountain MS Center, the West Colfax Association of Neighbors, or the Denver Fire Department Foundation, which is not the fire department, but a nonprofit that supports firefighters.
The MS charity that we are giving to, it was a year-long process with their board of directors to make sure that they were able to accept these kinds of donations.
Rocky Mountain MS Center told us, quote, "The mission of the Rocky Mountain MS Center is to improve the quality of life of individuals and their families living with MS and related neurological diseases through care, support, education, and research. We are dedicated to raising money to support these efforts."
There still is some legal risk that a nonprofit would need to evaluate, but from the experts we've talked to, it seems small at this point.
We checked with the Colorado Nonprofit Association about any risks involved in essentially accepting what the feds would consider to be drug money. Simply put, if the nonprofit receives federal grant money, it might want to avoid a pot donation.
Most nonprofits do not directly receive federal funds, and so for them, the issue of whether to accept sponsorship or donations from the marijuana industry really comes down to how does that fit with their donor base overall, and is it consistent with their mission?
And the Colorado Nonprofit Association did a survey last year. They found that 1 out of 10 nonprofits has actively tried to get contributions from the marijuana industry, and 2/3 would accept a donation if they were offered one.
Very interesting stuff. Steve Staker, thank you. So the bill to legalize pot clubs got hung up at the state capitol today. The pro-cannabis crowd is worried that there's a technicality in the language that might accidentally ban you getting baked on your own front porch, which is totally legal. Legislators from the House and Senate are going to come together for a second conference committee, don't call it a joint committee, to try again to reach a deal on marijuana clubs. It is high time we checked on our favorite train. Tell me, oh wise TV news graphics, is the A-line working today? Yes. The train is raising its batting average, I am telling you, and I promise I'll be on board with a party hat when it gets the all clear. But you know, just as the A-line gets its poop in a group, RTD has another train line that's on the struggle bus. Construction delays on the N line, which is eventually going to run north out of Union Station up through Commerce City, North Glen, Thornton. These construction issues aren't related to RTD's crossing issue struggles. RTD was hoping to open up that N line in 2018. If you live, work, or play in Denver, and you ever run into trouble with traffic, behind the wheel, walking, riding a bike, there's an app with a map where you can pinpoint trouble spots to bring them to the city's attention. More on that shortly. But first, our Noel Brennan takes us out to 5th and Lincoln to show us a fix for a problem intersection.
Lincoln is usually the busiest.
Looking to cross at 5th and Lincoln?
It's a little hectic around lunch hours and mornings.
Get ready for a game of Frogger.
Frogger across the way. It's pretty bad.
Look both ways, cross your fingers, and run.
And they're literally almost getting ran over.
Debbie works nearby and knows this intersection is dangerous for cars, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, matter of fact, today we had another accident.
51 crashes in 5 years, Denver police say. Numbers tell the story, but don't leave this kind of impression.
There was a fatal accident here with a motorcyclist and a truck that were involved. That was pretty bad. That's where the memorial flowers are, right there.
Over the last few years, we've seen a crash picture emerging at that intersection.
The picture is bad enough. The city is using CDOT grant money to pay for traffic signals at 5th and Lincoln and at 5th and Broadway.
Our goal is to get both those signals installed by next year.
Before then, expect bigger stop signs, painted stop bars, and what's called a bulb out on Lincoln just past 5th.
It's going to prevent drivers from changing lanes in the intersection.
A short-term fix to save us from a game.
Not a very safe intersection.
No one really wants to play.
Horrible place for accidents.
For next, I'm Noel Brennan.
5th and Lincoln gets its short-term fixes in the next few months, stoplights before the end of the year. There's a link to that Denver Vision Zero app where you can report trouble spots with traffic. It's in this article on 9news.com. Their names and their faces were headline news at one point, then they faded from view. But the Aurora Police Department does not forget its own who are lost in the line of duty. 5 names, 5 faces, a patrol woman, a patrolman, 2 agents, and a police officer. They were each honored today, along with fallen officers from across Colorado. Our photojournalist Tom Cole was there.
Thank you to everyone who is in attendance for today's memorial ceremony. And honor the memories of our men and women who gave all.
The fallen officers we honor today from Aurora and throughout the state of Colorado exemplify the core values of honor, integrity, and duty. We honor their sacrifices. We honor the families of our fallen who have suffered enormous loss and continue to feel that loss.
Trooper Cody James Donahue, end of watch, November 25th, 2016.
On average, every 58 hours, a law enforcement officer dies in the United States. Officer Deborah Sue Kaur has the unfortunate distinction of being the first officer in the history of APD to be killed in the line of duty. Officer Dietzman was totally devoted to his family and had a strong belief in the police mission. During an exchange of gunfire that followed, Agent Holcomb was shot and killed. Agent Michael Thomas, born October 29, 1953, was killed in the line of duty on September 20th, 2006. His patrol car swerved and crashed. Officer Burns succumbed to his injuries despite valiant efforts by medical personnel to save his life. Gone, but never forgotten.
Were you awake late last night? Did you hear it? Did you see it? There was one little tiny thunderstorm right over downtown Denver that apparently made quite an impact. Thunder, lightning, even hail around the area. Now, after a morning with a wintry mix, we're back to sunshine and wonderful temperatures up and down the Front Range. Matter of fact, we got to 56 with that afternoon sun, and we're going to go a whole lot warmer tomorrow. Our storm tracking off to the east, a big shift in the weather pattern. High pressure will push the jet stream to the north of us, and that means not only above average high temperatures, but lots of sunshine and a dry weather pattern right into the first half of the weekend. And so tonight, fair skies, light winds, and really just a beautiful evening if you don't mind the cold. Yes, a frost advisory posted for Denver, the Front Range, and Eastern Plains. Tender plants and vegetation will need protection tonight as temperatures will go into the 20s and 30s. After a frosty start to your day, sunshine will get us, well, how about 70 degrees? Not too bad. Springing into the 70s, we will tomorrow, and then 80s for the weekend. A couple of thunderstorms popping up in the Saturday forecast. Maybe a better chance of some of that storm coverage on Sunday, but really just a wonderful extended period after what some of us saw this morning looked a whole lot like winter. I don't know, Kyle, it was snowing in my house this morning.
Tough to tell from my bunker. If we are going to be unapologetically honest around here, we know that you can't always put your name and face behind everything that needs to be said. You know what I'm saying? So we'll call this Confessions of a Blank. And we first fill in that blank with bridesmaids with their identities protected because, you know, bridezillas.
I'm Paula. I'm Courtney, and this is my confession. My name is Paula. I've been a bridesmaid 6 times. My name is Courtney, and I've been asked to be a bridesmaid 3 times. You get chosen to be a bridesmaid. It's supposed to be a big honor. You get asked in a fancy way with a special box full of pictures and memorabilia.
It's an honor. It's a wonderful thing to stand up there with some of your closest friends and watch them take the next step in their life after you've been there for the previous steps in their life.
The not so glorious part is paying $300 for a bridesmaid dress.
I have to pay to have it shipped here.
Also having to pay for your makeup, getting fake eyelashes glued onto your eyelids, and shoes, and jewelry, and your flight, in your hotel room. It adds up.
And she sends me an email that says, thanks, really appreciate all of your hard work. And that's very kind of her.
The revenge is coming one day. I'm engaged.
The last wedding I was in, I don't even speak to the bride anymore.
What you're supposed to do with your bridesmaid dresses after you're done with the wedding.
What
a lot of mine,
I don't know what to do with it.
A lot of mine end up in the back of my closet.
The last one I had was a bubblegum pink. Where would you wear that again?
To an 80s party. I'm Paula, and that was my confession.
I'm Courtney, and that was my confession.
Totally not their real names. All right, so time to confess. What is it that you know that Colorado needs to know? Listen, it could be funny, laugh out loud stuff, or it could be something serious. The confessions have already started rolling into our email address, next@9news.com. I especially enjoyed reading the confessions of a 911 dispatcher and a hotel front desk clerk. They have both seen some stuff. Speaking of what we all see and what we need to get off our chests, here are a few more of the ways that you finish the sentence, I love you, Colorado, but. Next, we return to the restaurant where an old mural was uncovered to find out what happened when it couldn't be restored. And there's a chance you've never driven down this street, for good reason. Next. New development can paper over the past, or it could feature it front and center. So tonight we take you back to a business that's always been determined not to let go of its history. We told you about Kat Ullman and her husband Dave. They bought the old Great Scots Eatery near US 36 in Pecos. When they were stripping the walls, they found an old mural of a car dealership that had been hidden by metal diner panels. Here on Next, we helped them track down the guy who originally painted it. He was the son of a former employee. Fortunately, it wasn't in any shape to be refurbished, but he agreed to paint a brand new version of the scene and added some of Kat's classic cars tucked in around the originals. The artist delivered the new portrait right before Kat and Dave's new restaurant opened in early March.
He was blown away. He couldn't believe anybody cared enough. Well, I just wanted him to do something very similar, but incorporate some personal touches and some personal vehicles.
Kat and Dave put the new portrait above the cash registers right there, front and center, gleaming like new. Our next question comes from a viewer named Jessica. Why do cities drain fire hydrants and just let the water run down into the sewer? Seems like such a waste. We're only allowed to capture so much rainwater for private use, but the city can seemingly let hydrant water flow freely? Denver Water says this is about water quality. During the winter, water will sit in dead ends of pipes and on cul-de-sacs, and it becomes stale. So the hydrants are used to try and bring the water quality back up to where it needs to be for the summer months. Denver Water also flushes those hydrants on request. Fire departments and insurance companies can ask to make sure that the hydrants have enough pressure in case they need to be used to help fight a fire. On the waste aspect of this, we're told that a hydrant on average takes about 10 to 15 minutes to flush. It's about 1,000 gallons of water. So all the flushing they do is about 0.01% of Denver Water's total annual consumption. And if it's happening on your street, you are allowed to ask the guys who are working out there if you can redirect it onto your lawn. Nothing wrong with that. Chance the Rapper is in Denver. He won 3 2017 Grammy Awards, Best New Artist, Best Rap Album, Best Performance, but no honor greater than a Denver street sign. Apparently, Denver City Council President Albus Brooks is a fan. He presented Chance with his own downtown Denver street sign last night. Chance 3 Boulevard. Official sign name and anything. There's not actually going to be a Chance 3 Boulevard. Don't go looking around town for it. Councilman Brooks says he's been getting messages from across the country asking where the street sign is. No doubt people want their picture with it, or they want to steal it for their house. Brooks told us, we just wanted a chance to know the people of Denver appreciate his artistic contributions. There was no official proclamation or anything like that. No time, Brooks said. Chance the Rapper was playing at Red Rocks last night and again tonight. The most Colorado thing we saw today. And your feedback, interesting as always, next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a goose doing goose stuff, like occupying a full parking space. Actually 4, because nobody's coming close to that goose, and that is pretty valuable real estate in Colorado these days. Selfish bird. Jonathan Knopf took this photo, Wadsworth Boulevard in Lakewood. Your feedback tonight is about all clothes all the time. Lynn Ryan writes, your bridesmaid segment was spot on. This coming from a girl with 6 taffeta nightmares gathering dust in my basement. Jeremy Savage is apparently a fan of my ensemble tonight. I officially have clinical blazer envy, he writes. There is a topical cream for that. But Alan and Diane, not fans. Did the dry cleaner shrink your jacket, or did you borrow it from your little brother? Alan and Diane, I just gained a little weight. Thank you for noticing, and I'll see you next time.